Okay, so hello everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to Themis Technologies informative webinar on life in the UK. Learn about living in the UK and how to make the big move. We are a London-based global consulting company specializing in tech immigration, startup consulting, business innovation, and creative content services. We have assisted 1,000 plus professionals in successfully launching their businesses and tech careers in the UK technology industry. We have our in-house quarterly published online magazine, Technologist Confidant, which caters to a large chunk of technologists of the world with genuine information and career insights. We have 1,000 plus global talent, startup, and innovative visa endorsement successes, 100 plus tech startups part of our business support program, and 25,000 plus monthly magazine Technologist Confidant page views. We are raising the bar by working closely with our clients. For more information, visit our website themistel.co.uk. To begin with, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Aishwarya Raj and I'm the host of this event. In collaboration with CIPD Experts in the UK, this webinar aims to give you all the information you need to feel confident about living in the UK while establishing yourself as a leader in innovation and technology. During this webinar, you will receive info and insights from leading global mobility expert Sarah Huntridge and first-hand experience from our business support expert at Themis Technologies Ltd, Gayatri Panda. Our guest Sarah Huntridge is an expert global moving industry for corporate and individual clients at BTR International, which is an independent UK-based global mobility services company providing relocation and move management support. Sarah has a wealth of experience in international recruitment and global mobility, with a strong track record of driving service excellence and enhanced customer engagement. She has extensive strategic and operational experience gained in the global relocation industry. In this webinar, we will listen from the experts about preparing before you move to the UK, understanding the rent and housing scenes in the UK, how different is the British education system and how to prepare your children, healthcare and NHS in the UK, how does banking work in the UK, shopping in the UK, department store and high street, public transport in the UK, UK culture and way of life, and last but not the least, relocation. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start the conversation. If you have any questions or concerns during the presentation, please use the GoToMeeting control panel to leave them in the chat section. We will have a question and answer session when the presentation is over. I bring up all of your queries and our panelists would respond to them all. Let me hand it over to Sarah. Hello, Sarah. You may go ahead with the presentation from here.
Thank you, Aishwarya, and so thank you for that introduction. I'd just like to say thank you to everybody.
Sarah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay? Yes.
I think there is some connectivity issue.
I'm not muted. Can you hear me now?
Hi, Sarah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Hi, Sarah. You can go ahead.
Thank you very much.
It's clear. No problem.
That's good. Well, just to say thank you for everybody joining us today, and I hope we can give you some really useful information to help you plan your relocation to the UK. It is quite a stressful and big move in your life, going to a new country. So the more information you can gather before the event, the better for yourselves. So I'm just going to go through a few points about what to do to prepare before you come to the UK, what to think about, what to understand. We'll also be going through the rental market and the housing scene in the UK, which has been bringing some challenges lately, but obviously with help from a local consultant who has the understanding of the market, that can be overcome very easily. We'll also be talking about the British education system and how to prepare your children for that. Children obviously are very adaptable, and they have a very bounce back attitude to new experiences, but you still need to have obviously the information to give them that first start and that first step into our education system. We'll also be talking about healthcare and the NHS in the UK. It's something that's very important to the UK people. We're very proud of our NHS and our healthcare system, and the fact that it is a free system. There are some extra things to think about when you come here, and also some information to prepare you for what to do to get into the system should you need healthcare and support. Other matters of banking, obviously having a bank account is very important. It links to everything in your life, from buying your shopping, paying your bills, being paid, and also getting a tenancy agreement. Just about everything is linked to a bank account and a credit score, so it's very important to get that addressed as soon as you come to the UK. I'll also be discussing shopping in the UK. We've got a very wide variety of shops, but we also have some very niche shops that have ethnic foods that obviously you want to be looking for if you prefer your own cooking and your own food. That we can sort of give you direction on how to find those places that sell the ingredients that you prefer to make your own meals. And public transport in the UK, very important one. It's not always easy to drive straight away in the UK. You might need to purchase a car, so we might be relying on public transport initially. That could be train, bus, and the networks here are very good in the UK, but it's just navigating those and understanding where to go and how to do those. And then UK culture and way of life. Every culture has different ways and means, and we're all the same, but we have different ways of thinking about how we speak and talk to people and how we interact with other people. So just a few little tips on that, just to show you what things mean when people say things to you, and so you can understand and know what they mean when they're talking. And lastly, pet relocation, something that's been very much in the news lately. People buying a lot of pets, and when they move they want to take them with us. It's something that's part of the family, a cat or a dog or whatever your pet might be, a parrot or whatever. So we can also discuss pet relocation and how that would be, how to plan for that, and how much that would cost in relation to your move. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So ideally, you want to be doing some research on the location that you're going to be going to see what the market is like for property. As mentioned, it is very challenging at the moment because there isn't a lot of property on the market to rent. Therefore, you might find that you're up against a few other people for the same property. But if you do some research before you arrive, then when you get here, you will be accepted for an offer on a property once you're here and you have your right to rent. Right to rent means that you have your visa, which gives you the right for you to go into a tenancy agreement with the landlord. And with the bank account, that is another additional thing that you would need to arrange for your tenancy and agree to go into a contract with the landlord. Other things, yes, prepare for your school, get things together that the school might need, so you can do contact with the school before you arrive. They might not necessarily guarantee you a place because you need to have an address until you're accepted, but you can find out what you would need for the application, so you have everything ready, documented, ready to go when you do get that address, and your kids are then allowed to go to that school pending the places available. For pets, with relocation of pets, if everything is up to date on vaccinations and certificates, we have a system in this country where they arrive and they're cleared at the airports like Heathrow or Manchester, and then as soon as they're cleared, they're allowed to be continue on their journey to their destination address. So it's just making sure that everything's done before departure. There's no hiccups once they arrive at their destination. Checking paperwork for the new country. So you might obviously be asked for some documents, proof of addresses, things like that. So it's always best to give yourself time to get everything together, put them in separate folder documents, and also keep copies as well. With regard to family medical records from your doctor, it's not something I've been asked for overseas people relocating, but if there is a certain something that's already been recorded that to do with your health, it's always useful for the new doctors to have that, because they really will start from scratch with your health when you go to see them on your initial appointment with them at your GP. So if you have any information on any illnesses or conditions that you've already got, that's always useful for the doctor to have a look at, give them a starting point for you. Researching schools is always a good one. We have a government body called Ofsted, which is a public organisation, and they do reports on every school and nursery in the country. So they'll get an Ofsted rating, and that will mean that you can see if a school is doing well, has good results, if the children are happy, or if a school is failing some areas, it might be a school that you don't wish to send your children to. Yes, let your bank know going overseas. Some banks require you to close your account in your country of origin and on departure. Others will let you leave your account open, but then when you come to the UK, you may want to transfer some money over to your new bank account for funds. So it's worth going into the bank and speaking with your bank account facilitator just to see if there's anything that they might need to do before you depart. Setting up any payments, again, locally you might still need to pay bills off, or you might want to transfer some money into a holding account until you can open a new bank account in the new country. So just again, worth having a word with the bank before you leave. And choosing a relocation company is a very good idea. It's someone who will be your avatar, who will be your advocate for things like home search, school search, settling in services such as finding a GP, finding a dentist, just researching facilities that you might want to go to, sports, or anything to do with your children and activities. And it is very much a bespoke service. So when you speak to a relocation company, they will capture what you need for your new location, what your desires and wishes are for that place. And then just deciding on what you want to take, that's really just to do with anything that you want to take, personal possessions. Right then, preparing to move to the UK, just make sure you have any medications that you might need, and plenty of them when you go to a new country. They might be a different brand. When you come here, might be a different type of packaging. So just take the medications with you so that your GP can see what you've been using. Again, you'll have an initial appointment with your GP and they'll go through everything to do with your health. If you do decide to have private health care, you can do that, but it's always you're always able to go to A&E or emergency care at the hospital if you need immediate care and you need to be seen very quickly. The weather in the UK, we love to talk about the weather. We can have 4 seasons in a day. It's not unusual. It can start out sunny, and you can have rain in the afternoon. So yes, it's always good to take clothes for all seasons when you come to the UK. We do have some unusual words, and you'll find that locally words are different in different counties. So quid is a pound, tar, thank you, cheers, chuffed, really happy, knackered, tired, gutted, disappointed. They're all words that people use, but you might hear other words that are very similar and in meaning. So it depends on what area you go to. And British television, I think it's seen worldwide. It's a good way to understand our humour, if you want to understand our sense of humour here. Next slide, please. So just on things to do with culture as well, we are very polite in the UK, and we might seem a little bit standoffish at first. It's just because as a nature, we just sometimes need to get to know you so that we can interact with you. But people are very polite and very helpful in the UK. If you're lost, people will help you. They'll stop and help. If you need to find out something, people are very helpful. And the British public are very proud of the UK. So, you know, if you say that you love working here, you love living here, you'll be received very well. So yes, forums are a good idea. If you want to network with other expatriates, there's some really good expatriate forums where people can tell you where to buy goods, where to go for entertainment, and there might be some groups where you can meet people. Sometimes I think the hardest thing is leaving your friends behind, because you have to start by making new friends and new relationships. So it's always good to get on a forum if you want to connect, and it's also good for, you know, having activities you might enjoy. I would say book your accommodation and tickets well in advance, especially for temporary accommodation. What main people do when they arrive is they might book 4 weeks minimum of temporary accommodation. That might be an Airbnb or a serviced apartment. But these do get busy in the peak times, especially in the summer holidays. So don't leave it to the last moment, because you may be disappointed, or you may end up paying more than you should have for a reasonable accommodation. So just plan ahead. A lot of the accommodation is book and then pay on arrival. So if you don't need it, or you find somewhere better, you can always cancel it without any charge. Yes, money exchange. So if you do get your bank account set up within a week of arrival, you should get a debit card very quickly after, if not a few days after. So you will need some money just to keep you going in hand, just for things like taxis, and also paying for food and for meals, and possibly if you do have a car, straight away, obviously, for petrol. So bring some money. It's a difficult one to say how much to bring, but I would say in the region between £1,000 and £2,000 if you're not going to get a bank account card within 4 weeks is about right. Just so you've got that cash should you need to give a deposit on something, or pay for accommodation in cash. We don't have a lot of air conditioning in this country. It's because our weather isn't terribly hot. You'll find hotels and restaurants tend to have air conditioning, but not home properties. We do have heating, and obviously you'll need it in the winter. And at the moment, the energy prices have gone up a bit, so it's always best to look into property that has good energy efficiency ratings, and also a good central heating system that's reasonable to run. So that's something to think about when you look at your property. Tipping in the UK, it's a bit of a difficult one. It's not expected, like in some countries like the USA and other places where it's part of the service industry's extras, and they rely on tips for their salary. Here, people do get tipped in the restaurant, but only if you think they've been exceptional and given a good service. It's not generalized to be expected, regardless of what you've had or what you've done at the restaurant. But it's not accepted in other places. It's mostly in the hospitality industry that tipping is given. So cup of tea, if you like tea, that's a main staple of the UK, although there's a lot of coffee shops now. We have the main coffee shops like Starbucks, Costa Coffee, and they're very popular with the younger crowd. And you know, obviously we have our pubs, but just generally people do seem to be drinking a lot more at home now. So supermarkets sell alcohol, and it tends to be a little bit cheaper than drinking out, but we still like to have a drink in the summer at a local pub when it's hot and you're thirsty. And then lastly, sort of food. We love takeaways. Friday night is takeaway night mostly in the UK, so you can take your pick. You can have an Indian takeaway, Chinese takeaway, Italian, just about anything really. We've got some great apps on our internet now called Just Eat and Deliveroo, so you can have them delivered to your home and paid for without even having to leave your sofa. So it's very, very convenient when you don't feel like cooking. Next slide, please. Thank you. And just to go over the rent and housing scene again in the UK. It's a good way of getting a feel for where you're going to live. You can see a rental on the internet and think, oh, that looks a great place. I think I'd like to live there. And then when you get there and you live in the property, you might find that the local area isn't quite what you want. It's not convenient, or it's a little bit run down. So renting is a good way of sounding out if it's somewhere you really want to be. And then if you do want to buy eventually, it does take a while from putting an offer in and then having an exchange. So the rental will give you that buffer time if you want to buy to acquire a new property. And then obviously if you buy it, it takes a few months for all the solicitors and the lawyers things to go through before you actually get your keys and you're able to move into an owned property. It is challenging because, as I said, there's not a lot of stock on the market. However, things are seasonal, so again, it can be very difficult to find a house in the summer because everybody's moving out, buying in the summer. Sometimes the other months tend to be a bit quieter because people don't want to move near Christmas time or Easter. So it just depends really when you're arriving. You can have all sorts of properties from a 1-bedroom through to a 5-bedroom house. We have flats, apartments, all sorts of different properties. Some people can even live in caravans, static caravans in some places of the country. There's lots of choice, just depending on your family unit and how much space you want. So yes, rent can vary. In the cities, it tends to be higher. In the suburbs, a little bit less, and in country, in between, depending what part of the country you are in. But yeah, average rent can be between, I would say, between 1,500 and 2,000 a month, depending on what size property you're going for and what area you're going into. Next slide, please. So the British education system is very much dependent on the year of birth and also the age of your child. So the academic year starts in September. September the 5th or the 1st is usually the beginning of the academic year here in the UK. And if your child is born before September, that will designate what year, entry year the child goes into. So if your child is born after September, they might be the oldest in the year. And then if your child is born in August, they might be the youngest in the year. And again, it's age dependent. Preschool, entry age is 4 to 5, and they go into reception. And it's a little bit like an extension of nursery there. They do start doing the curriculum, but it's more, it's less academic and more sort of learning the basics. And right through to secondary school, year 11 at 15 and 16, that is the end of what you would call the mainstream school year. After that, people tend to go on and do their A levels. So they'll either go to sixth form or they'll go to college. And then after that, if they wish to go to university, it's all very much dependent on the results of A levels, to which university they would go to. And from sixth form is usually, that's part of the education system and that's free, and so is college. But university, there are usually fees accrued with that for tuition fees, and also sometimes if you have to live in, accommodation fees. So that's when education starts to cost you, rather than it being free and part of the system in the UK. Next slide, please. Thank you. Healthcare in NHS in the UK is very important because we all need to stay healthy and be looked after. And obviously with the recent COVID pandemic, we've very much got a handle on the system of checking people, making sure they're vaccinated, and also providing treatment. So once you get to the UK, the first thing you'll need to do is get an NHS number, and you can do that by contacting the local general practice practitioners, and you have to have an address to give them, and then they will give you a national health number which you will keep for the rest of your life. And your primary care is with your general practitioner, so that's for general things. If you've got an underlying condition or an existing condition, you will go and see your general practitioner. If you need some treatment for that and it requires a hospital treatment, your GP will refer you to a consultant at a hospital for that treatment. And then if you need an operation, the same. If you need emergency treatment, as mentioned, you just go straight to the emergency department, or you call an ambulance to be taken to the emergency department, and you will be treated immediately for whatever is your problem. So it's very important, even if you haven't got your NHS number when you arrive, if something happens and you're not well, or you need emergency treatment, you still go to the emergency department regardless, because that's your point of contact for any help or treatment. Other matters are the GP practices are quite difficult to get through to sometimes, so you have to be very patient, and appointments are not always available, but they will get you in. You just have to give them the opportunity to give you an appointment when one is available. But like I say, if something is very urgent, you must tell them. It's usually a receptionist that you speak to why you need to be seen urgently, and then they will try and obviously expedite your appointment to get you in. That's it. Next slide, please. So banking in the UK. So we've got various high street banks, and I would agree that the ones that are most geared up for expatriates are Barclays, HSB and Lloyds. I'm not quite sure about Metro, but I believe they're on par. to have a bank account in the UK, you have to fit certain criteria. And sometimes when you arrive, some of that criteria you might not have yet. So those banks tend to be a little bit more flexible and have ways around it. They might be able to ask you to get a letter from your employer, for example, to verify who you are and why you're here. And also, if you have any bank accounts in other countries, that's always an indication that you've got a good credit history and things like that. So there are ways of finding out how to get a bank account. One of them is online, or you can go into a local branch of that bank and ask one of the staff at the counter. Sometimes they won't let you transfer any money into a UK bank account until you get here, and that's for reasons of money laundering, but you can still make an inquiry before you arrive about opening a bank account. Credit history is something that you will have to start from scratch with. So it would come into play if you wanted to get a loan for a car, for example, or you wanted to have a mortgage. The banks are very good at trying to help you get your credit rating up to the level so you're allowed to borrow. Probably one of the best ways is to get a credit card and just spend on it and pay it off straight away, and that gets your credit score up very quickly because you're shown to be a safe creditor and not high risk. Next slide, please. Lovely. So shopping in the UK, lots and lots of choice from budget right to high end. We've got lots of supermarkets that sell quite a lot of different variety of goods. They sell clothes. We have online shopping, so you can have your groceries delivered to your home by many of the major supermarkets. It's very useful if you don't have a car, and it's just a matter of registering with your email address and attaching a debit card to that account, and then everything is then brought to the door and you just have to unpack it and put it away. Very easy. We've got high street shops, and we've got local corner shops, and we've got big, what we call shopping malls, with lots of different choice of clothing shops and everything, with good parking. And most of the bus and train transports go to these areas if you haven't got a car. That's very good. If you want ethnic food, again, there are places that have specialised warehouses where you can go and buy anything that you want that would be similar to the food that you purchase in your own country, and you can usually buy it in bulk, and they might be able to deliver if you check with them. They might be able to deliver as well if you're buying in quantity. Next slide, please. So public transport. So depending where you're going, transport can vary. If you're living in central London or the outskirts of London, you've got a fantastic transport network, and you can buy passes for the day that will get you on the bus, the train, the tube, if you want to go around London for any reason. Country residents is a little bit more difficult. There doesn't tend to be so many buses or frequency of buses. So think about that when you're buying or you're renting a property that might be in the countryside. The schools might be better because they might be smaller and more unified, but then you're not near shops or facilities for getting to work. So it's just to think about that when you're with the transport. And again, you know, with the travel, always check that the timetables are up to date. We have had some issues of train strikes just recently, so always plan ahead and make sure that your journey is going to be able to be facilitated by the tube or the train or the bus that you're going to go on. And again, there's some very good apps on your phone that you can check these on to see if trains and buses are running. That's lovely. Next slide, please. So yeah, just a little bit on UK culture. So we're a nation of queuers. We always queue to get into places. It's boring and it's not, you have to be very patient, but it is our way. And if people jump a queue, it's very much frowned upon. Again, mentioned we can be a bit reserved, standoffish, but it's not being unwelcome. It's just we sometimes have to just work out, you know, how to speak with people and understand them as well. But once we get to know you, we really get to know you and welcome you, and you know, we'll be very helpful to you. So public holidays or bank holidays, we have a few of those in the year. Main ones are Christmas Day and Boxing Day and New Year's Day. Then we have Easter holidays, which is Good Friday and Easter Monday. And then we have a few speckled throughout the year. We have a May Day bank holiday, an August bank holiday, and then that's about it really. We've obviously just had a holiday, well, a day of mourning for the Queen passing, but that's very unusual. Next year we might see one for the King's coronation, but that's yet to be announced. But the general rule of thumb is that people that work don't work on a public holiday unless they're self-employed, and some shops might be shut, but most shops still stay open on public holidays. There's just a few that they wouldn't, like Christmas Day, but mostly, even on bank holidays, supermarkets and shops are open. Just some transportation might be limited or less service on a bank holiday. So yeah, as far as people, we are a little bit on the private side, but some people are very open, so it just depends who you meet really. I think you'll sort of find out from speaking to people whether they want to tell you all about themselves or they want to ask you all about yourself. And yes, we do call each other affectionate names. I tend to call people lovely, and other people in other parts of the world call you duck. It's really depending on what area of the country in. It's just a term of endearment. It means they like you and they feel comfortable with you. And if you don't like it, just say, I'd rather you didn't call me that, but please call me whatever your name is, and they'll be happy to do that instead. And pet relocation. So pet relocation is quite an expensive exercise. You have to have a lot of checks done by a veterinarian prior to departure, one of those being tapeworm, and the actual cost of the relocation is mostly because most come by air freight if they're coming internationally, so that's a very costly exercise. So you've really got to love your pet to spend that sort of money on them. Once they arrive here, they will be cleared by a veterinarian at the animal clearance centre at the airport, and then they're allowed to then be delivered to your destination home. The only time you might find an animal might have to do quarantine if it hasn't, if it's not in the category that's allowed to come from a country that's quarantine free. So some countries pets have to be quarantined, but there is a website where you can check that, and I can obviously share that with anybody that wants to know about pets. That's it. They're very well cared for on their visit. I've seen little pet postcards from people that have had pets, and yes, they're probably less stressed than we are when traveling. And next slide. That's it. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found it all very useful, and I'll hand over to Gayatri now to sort of say her bit now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing such insightful content and shedding light on UK culture and way of life, housing and healthcare, British education system, and pet relocation. Our next speaker is Gayatri Panda, business support expert at Themis Technologies Ltd. Over to you, Gayatri.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar and hope you learned about life in the UK so far. So in my section, I will highlight challenges and how you can overcome them. As most of you know, UK tech sector employs a majority of immigrants. And with the number of tech vacancies continuing to rise, attracting and retaining best global talent remains a key priority for most of the UK employers. However, hiring migrant workers has brought challenges related to like integration and language problem. And some of the challenges international employees experienced, one of them is navigating life in a new language. Please, next slide. So, not everyone speaks BBC English or Queen English in the UK. So the UK has some of the highest levels of accent diversity, and some accents are really difficult to understand. Even English people have some problem understanding it. Some accents are really hard to understand, especially Liverpool, Ireland, and Scotland. A thick Scottish accent is probably the most unintelligible to most. Other English-speaking countries, including US, have trouble in understanding many things that British say. So for us, as English is our second language, it is no surprise that understanding accents will take some time. Besides, it is not understanding the language, but more about Brits using so many metaphors, jargons, and terminology which are not immediately obvious and can make no sense for many nationalities. Mannerism is also different, so as the accents. So another problem we can say is isolation. So many international employees feel isolated because of the time zone, and they are disconnected with old friends and family. They also don't feel comfortable making new friends due to the language or the culture gap. So social isolation might lead to stress, anxiety, and other psychological problems. And for many, dealing with the cost of living is most challenging. A high cost of living is one of the main problems people face when they move to the UK. Costs such as housing, transport, food, clothing, household items, and entertainment significantly higher than at home, and this can create feelings of resentment. Another challenge is adjusting to different culture. So living in a foreign culture will surely result in some culture shock, whether you are struggling to comprehend the local sense of humor, or adjusting to a new work culture, or just buying groceries at the store. These day-to-day problems can cause emotions of anger, homesickness, or even regret. So next, building your credit, another challenge for international people in the UK. So many immigrants in the UK face a difficult financial situation because of not having a credit history. So credit history allows you to borrow money to buy a home or a car or get approved for a loan or a credit card. So good credit history gives you access to better terms on financial products such as current or saving accounts, mortgage, better credit card options, and more. The the higher your credit score, you have access to better interest rates. So when you move to UK, you basically starting from scratch. Banks in UK have no idea how you have handled your credit in the past, and they can't do a credit check to be able to lend you money. So it's most likely that they will reject your bank account or credit card application. So what is the solution? The first thing you can do, start building a credit history. is to register to vote. So in the UK, getting on the electoral roll means you have proof of address, which is vital for establishing your credit history. And this is how you document your identity and residence, and it will boost your credit score. Also, you can open a bank account. So if you have an account with a bank in your home country, let's say Axis Bank, SBI in India, also they have branches in UK, they have branches in London. Check if you can activate an account in UK before leaving to India, before leaving India. So this will help build a credit score. Besides, you can get a high paying job. So having a regular high income shows that you will be able to pay bank the credit and pay bills on time. So paying your phone bills, utility bills, gas, electricity on time, at least for 6 months, shows that you are financially responsible and will help convince your lenders or the banks that you will pay back the credit. Another way of forming the another way like you can get the uh, good credit score is that you can sign up for a UK mobile phone contract as a form of credit that will help you to build a credit score. So another biggest problem is housing. So UK housing market has its challenges, and on the top of it, landlords, property owners have different sets of rules for permanent residents and non-permanent residents. So it is the property owner who decides whom they want to rent. If they have a so if you have a friend or family member in the UK, they may be able to assist you in finding a nice home because of their strong credit history. Otherwise, you can take help from mobility experts such as BTR International. So last but not the least, raising children. So one of the biggest concerns for parents is the well-being of their children. You might be worried if you can't find a proper school for your kids, if your kids are able to make friends, and how will they integrate into a new culture? So what can you do about the problems? You can ask from your friends or family living in the UK. They might guide you about the schools. If no one is here, you can directly connect with your council for state funded school once you are in the UK, and they will guide you. If you want to send your kids to independent or the private schools, you can directly contact these private schools. So moving to the next slide. Yeah. So you can get support from different sources. If you coming to the UK through Global Talent Visa, so you have a free access to the Technician Global Talent Visa Holders Network, and these people are really supportive, and go they go all the extra mile to support a fellow Global Talent Visa holder. And Technician Network consists of eminent industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and experts, and you will get support from finding a job to getting your ILR. Technician also organizes monthly events for visa holders where you will get an opportunity to connect with professionals and like-minded people. Besides, you can find more information on how to thrive in your tech career in the UK by following magazines such as Technologist Confident. So Technologist Confident is a magazine. It's a one-stop solution for UK tech career with reliable information, knowledge, and industry leading expertise. So you can visit the website of Technology Confident and learn more about it. In addition to that, I'm also launching a book, Indian Guide to the UK Technology Career. So where I'm discussing the winning strategies for professional advancement, and this book provides detailed information on effortlessly transitioning to international career. So it will be available this November. You can visit our website and register your interest to get notified when it gets published. In case there is a specific topic you need help with, you can directly write to us. With the help of our expert team, we will provide you the solution. Next, if you're coming to the UK through business visa. So through startup innovator, if you're coming to UK, stay in touch with your endorsing body and seek support related to your business and personal settlement. Remember, endorsing bodies are appointed by the Home Office for your support. Learn about other startup and innovator visa holders on social media, including LinkedIn, and contact them for peer mentoring. So basically, peer mentoring is a relationship between you and the person who is at the same career stage, but they have more experience than you living in the UK. So you can contact them, you can build a relationship, they can help you, they can provide support as well as the knowledge. You can join forums, groups run by startup and innovator visa holders to expand your network. You can join business support programs provided by like professional companies, and this will save your time and efforts. So at Themis, we also offer business support program. Joining our business support program as an international entrepreneur will help you with the mentoring, coaching, guidance, framework, and structure and support you need to successfully execute your strategy and get ILR, or the indefinite leave to remain. Other ways to stay up to date and learn about the strategies and insiders' perspective, you can follow magazines like Technologist Confident and read books like The Upcoming Indian Guide to the UK Technology Career. Moving to the last point. Yeah, if you're coming to the UK through work permit. Next slide, please. So if you're moving to the UK through work permit, how can you get support? So you can build good relationship at work and connect with colleagues or team members who have gone through similar experience like you. And you can find a mentor within as well as outside your company who can guide you in the right direction. You can ask for help from your manager if needed. You can also join professional bodies like within your sector, industry forums, and groups to expand your network and get support. Additionally, you can join our UK Tech Job Support Program for switching jobs or negotiating better pay. So we will assist you to make your application more appealing and like harder to resist for UK employers. So you can visit our website for more information. That's it from my end. Hope it was useful. In case you have any questions, please feel free to write to us. And thank you so much. Over to you, Aishwarya.
Thank you so much, Gayatri, for sharing valuable information derived from personal experiences. Now, like Gayatri said, it's time we take questions from our audience.
Well, I can see some of the questions. That one question is, so one of the attendees asking the question, Rahul, if child is 2.5 years old when she start education, and in this age or when she will turn 4. So I'd like to ask Sarah.
Yeah, that's fine.
One of the attendees, his name is Rahul, and he's asking
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's fine. So, Rahul, it would depend on what month the child was born in, depending on the intake year that they would go into. At that point in time where your child is now 2.5 years old, they would go to nursery care. If you were in full-time work and you wanted your child to be looked after while you were working, then the child could go to a local nursery. Now, nurseries are not free at that age category, but towards the age of 4, you do get what you call childcare vouchers for up to I think it's 5 mornings a week, which are from the government, so that you get those vouchers towards the cost of the childcare. So at 2.5, if you wanted the child to go to kindergarten or nursery, they could go, but it would be at your own financial cost. when they get to the school age, say you get the vouchers, it's like an introduction to school, because we have some nurseries who start the curriculum at the nursery school, but it's very much something you'd need to look online locally to see which nurseries have these vouchers and where you could go. Like I say, the intake for the school for reception year, when they reach the age of 4, would depend on the birth month. So, for example, if the birth month was August, they would go into the September intake for that next year. But if their birthday was just after, they might have to wait for the next intake year to go on. It really does depend on the month of the child's birth. Yeah. Does that
Thank you.
answer your question?
Hope so. Thank you so much. So the next question, another attendee, Pankaj. Pankaj is asking, first, I want to thank you, Themis team, for arranging this webinar. This is really helpful. I received my global talent visa with the help of Themis team and relocating to London from Delhi in December. So my question is to Sarah, how can I find a property and how can you help overseas clients?
Yep. So if you're arriving in December, I don't know if it's early December or late December, I would recommend booking some temporary accommodation for your arrival now. I know it's only October, but people do tend to go into London for Christmas shopping, and they might have a weekend of Christmas shopping, so things will get booked up. There's a couple of good sites, booking.com. There are other sites, but Airbnbs usually will let you book with free cancellation, but just check that out. So allow yourself at least 4 weeks in temporary accommodation for your arrival in London. That will give you time to arrive, get a lay of the land, go out and view some properties. It can take up to 2 weeks to get the tenancy and the credit checks done before you get your keys to your property. So I would start planning ahead for temporary accommodation, and then if you arrive, then the best thing is to get straight in touch with the estate agents in the locality where you want to rent, tell them what you're wanting, and then try and get some appointments booked as soon as possible to go and do some viewings. And I would also advise, if you see a property on a Thursday and you like it, do not wait. Put an offer in that day, because if you leave it to the Friday, somebody else may have put an offer in on the property, and it won't be available anymore. So make quick decisions on what you want as soon as you've seen them, because it's so some landlords can have up to 90 people apply for properties, so you need to be quick and get your offer in as soon as you've seen it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Aishwarya is back, so I will hand over to her. Aishwarya, over to you.
So next question we have Shoaib from Dubai. He's saying that he attended this webinar because he is moving to UK next year and he is quite stressful about his kids' education and how they will integrate within a new culture. Any suggestions?
Would you like me to answer that one?
Yes, please.
Yes, Sarah, please.
So depending on what school they're in Dubai, I know they have a very good system there for schooling, and a lot of the education in Dubai is private education, and it would depend on the age of the children. You can start making inquiries now about schools, and as mentioned, the best thing to do is look at the location that you're going to, and then go on the Ofsted website, which is where all the reports of all the schools are put onto there, and they're categorized into obviously excellent, good, not so good. You can do your research on that, but you won't be able to acquire a school place until you arrive here. So it really is a bit like which do you choose first, the school or the home? you need to have an address in the catchment area of the school to be accepted a place at the school. But until you know how many spaces they've got in the year that your children are going to, it's difficult to know whether you'd be accepted for space. So get friendly with the school. They have admin staff all year round, even through the school holidays they're there. Try and get some communication going with them now so that you can preempt what you want to do when you arrive and where you want your children to go to school. But it's as simple as that, really. Just do your research and check what curriculum that they're doing in Dubai, if that is comparable to what they do at the school, so that they have a good transition over and it's not a setback for them in their academic learning.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I hope this clarifies the air for you, Shoaib. We have another question asked by Priya. She wants to know what is the interview criteria for parents for getting the admission. So Sarah, this again goes to you.
That's a good question. I don't think it's a formal interview. It's more to do with they'll ask you to complete an admission form. They may ask you about the educational background of your child, and you don't have to physically go in and have an interview unless it's a private school, and that's where you would have a physical interview with the headmistress or the bursar of the school. But most state schools, you'll be dealing with the administration team at the school, and they work with the local authority. So if they have a space at your school and your children meet the criteria for the catchment area, you should be accepted for a space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so next we have questions from Shiv, Rahul and Olurudmi. They want to know what is the maximum number of hours that their spouse can work weekly if they have a child below 5 years of age.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. What maximum hours?
Yes, what is the maximum number of hours their spouse can work weekly if they have a child below 5 years of age?
I'm not sure there is a maximum. I think if you're on a spousal visa, you can work for any employer.
Sorry to interrupt. Maybe the question is they want to know if they have a kid, really a small kid, and the spouse want to do some job. In that case, is there any facility for the child care? Or
Oh yes, of course, yes, there is. Yes, sorry, yes. So nurseries will take babies from, I think they'll take them from 3-month-old or 6-month-old right up to school age. So it's totally up to the person who's working how many hours they want to do and how long they want their child to go to nursery. Nursery hours tend to be between 7 o'clock in the morning till about 5:30. So you wouldn't be able to do any night work and you wouldn't be able to do any weekend work. It's always Monday to Friday, 7 till 5:30. If they're in all day, it could be not cost effective because you've got to weigh up how much you're paying out for nursery fees to how much you're earning. So it would really much depend on how much you've got to pay out to how much you're earning in your job that you're going to work in.
That's quite a spot.
Yeah.
Okay, so next we have a question from Prapti who wants to know what is the legal requirement for buying a property in the UK?
So it would help if you had a bank account because a lot of the banks are also mortgage lenders as well. You'd obviously need your visa. I'm not quite sure about other paperwork because I'm not I can't give out financial advice, but I think obviously you mentioned about having a credit score. So a good credit score will help you acquire a mortgage. And when you have a mortgage here, it's just changing at the moment because the interest rates are changing, but mostly the higher the deposit that you have, the more chance you are of acquiring a good interest rate and a good mortgage rate for buying a property. So it's probably best to check with the bank what criteria on documentation that you would need, but the main things are that you've got a visa, you've got a good credit history, and also you've got a good deposit to put down on the mortgage.
Absolutely. Okay, next question we have is from Rahul Bhoja. And since we are running out of time, so this is going to be the last question. So Rahul wants to know, is all kind of vegetables available there in the UK?
Yes, we're very lucky here that we if something isn't locally grown, it's imported. So locally grown produce would be your root vegetables like your potatoes, your carrots, cauliflower, and then imports we have beans from Kenya, courgettes. We get a lot from the European Union, so tomatoes. If anything's unusual that you like, then most supermarkets have a good stock of different types of unusual vegetables as well. And same with fruit, lots of different fruit from around the world. But yeah, we've got quite a good variety. I don't know what particularly you might want in a vegetable, but I'm sure you'll be able to buy it here in the UK without any trouble.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Sarah and Gayatri, for the informative presentation and for answering the questions of our participants. Thank you so much, audiences, for your engagement and clearing out the doubts. Hope we addressed all of your concerns. So this concludes the webinar. Before we sign off, we appreciate all the attendees joining the webinar and hope you have some clarity on life in the UK. Feel free to reach out to us via email or social media. In case you missed the complete webinar or some parts, don't worry, we will share the recording of this webinar with all the registered participants once the recording is available. We are really honored to have had such a large audience and a high level of engagement with a global audience. Once again, thank you for attending the webinar. Have a great day.